Welcome to another tying session, and no, I'm not done with the Klipspringer yet. There's one more pattern that I would like to show you, and it is one of my absolute favorites. I've been tying it for a very, very long time, and fished it quite extensively for both trout and yellowfish, although I use it for trout more. It's the Kaufmann Stimulator, and it's again originally tied with deer hair, but I tied with Klipspringer, and it's a fly that can be used as a caddis or large caddis or hopper or terrestrial kind of pattern, and it's just one of my all-time favorites. I tie it on the grip 14582 hook, and I've tied them from a size 8 to a size 16, so there's a huge size range that you can tie them in depending on what you want to use it for. The thread I'm using is a 6/0 grip thread, and you need good quality genetic hackle. Dubbing is a trilobal grip dubbing, and then either deer hair or Klipspringer. I just like to tie it with Klipspringer, they just look so much better. So I'm going to start by tying a tail, and if you don't tie it in a large size, from a 12 and smaller, don't use too bulky material, too bulky tail, or tie a too bulky tail or wing. It just bulks the fly up too much, and for the bigger flies, bigger sizes, like 10s and 8s, and I've seen them tied on a 6 as well, you can tie a little bit larger, bulkier wings and tails. Tie a small bunch, put it in a stacker, get the ends together, and the tail must be just a little bit past the hook shank. Tie that in right there. Now what I do is I tie it in to make sure I've got the length right. So I tie it in with about 2 wraps or 3 wraps right at the back, and I leave that there. I get all those ends together, pull them out of the way, just a few open wraps, go about just a little bit more than halfway back to the hook. You pull that down and tie it in there. You can tie that down quite tight. That will create and help you to create a nice abdomen, and allow you to taper a nice abdomen, and I'll show you now what I do to get that right. So you've got that little bubble of deer hair there. Tie those ends in to make sure that is nice and flat, and then you take the thread and you go with open wraps back, so you can create a nice abdomen, and you tie it in a little bit. Each wrap towards the back is a little bit tighter so that you can taper that abdomen, and then you've got a very nice abdomen just to put one layer of dubbing over, and it will be fine. It looks very nice. You don't have to build anything up or tape it with a dubbing or anything like that. Now I'm using a whiting hackle for the abdomen, and I've got one of Randellkaufmann's books that was published in 2008, titled Fly Patterns. It was by him and his wife Mary, and in the book, and it's an autographed copy actually, so I'm very lucky to have that. In the book, they tie the Kaufmanns. It's a whole bunch of variants that they tie. The original is just deer hair, dubbing, and hackle, but some of them they tie with a little bit of crystal flash under the wing or a bit of CDC under the wing. Some they tie with rubber legs to imitate be more of a hopper imitation. Some they tie with an indicator on top of the wing. There are so many variants that this fly can be tied in. You must just be a little bit creative and decide what and how you're going to use the fly. So they tie it with a hackle sticking past the hook barb, and I never liked that. I like to tie it, I prefer to tie it with a hackle inside the hook barb. I just believe that it's going to definitely increase your hookup rate because you use such stiff and good quality hackle. I think often the hackle can prevent a proper hookup, especially on smaller fish. Now, I'll show you now what I mean by that. The abdomen is just a trilobal dabbing, and I'm using a golden olive for this. And again, you just dab the thread lightly. There is a video on dabbing techniques that I'll link to this. And very easy to dab the thread, and then you can just wrap that abdomen very light with one layer of dabbed thread. And the one thing that they also show in the book is that they tie a rib of copper wire after the hackle. Again, that to me is an optional thing. I don't really do that. The disadvantage of that is that you often wrap it over the hackle and you don't get the effect in the hackle that you need. So I tend to leave the copper wire out. And there you can see that if you tie the underbody right, you get a very nice abdomen. Nice tapered abdomen, and you don't, it's absolutely no trouble to tie that abdomen. Just to there, and then those ends you just, with a few tight wraps, you can just make sure you tie all those deer hair or Klipspringer hair ends in. Okay, now the hackle, we're going to wrap that around through the dubbing, and you'll see that the hackle does not stick past the hook point, and that is the way I like it. And with evenly wrapped, evenly spaced wraps, go all the way to the front and tie that off right there. Cut the hackle away. Again, it's not a difficult fly to tie, although it does take a little bit more time than many others. And now you can prepare a wing. Now again, you take Klipspringer, and this is where some people, or one of the variants that I've seen, I've never done it really, is to tie CDC under the wing. I have tied them with a bit of Klipspringer, a bit of crystal flash under the wing, just 2 or 3 strands, so it enhances it a little bit, and imitate a bit of an underwing. But in this one, I'm just going to do the normal wing. So just put some hair in a stacker, get the ends together, and tie that on top of the fly, same length as the tail, so you don't go past the tail. Hold that on top and make sure to tie that down properly. And that is why I use a 3/0 thread, or a 6/0 rather than an 8/0. It just, you can just pull on it a little bit harder. Make sure that wing is on top of the hook. Cut the excess. and tie that back all the way against the abdomen, so you can go back a little bit. Make sure that the hair don't slide off on the far side, because you're tying that way. I often find that hair slides off on the other side and it doesn't look nice. So always turn that fly and make sure that on the side that you can't see that everything is in order there. There's the wing. And now for the front hackle, I'm going to use olive dyed grizzly. Again, a small, quite a small narrow feather that's a genetic feather. You tie that in on top, same size as the other feather. It's the other hackle that was used on the abdomen. Tie that on top. Take the thread forward to make sure that head shape is nice. That must taper towards the front. And I'm going to use a slightly darker dubbing. I'm going to use the normal olive dubbing trilobal for the head. And again, applied very thin. You don't need much for that little area that you need to cover there. Start at the back and cover it to form a nicely tapered head. To the front. And this is one of my favorites especially in rivers and streams. I fished it in the Eastern Cape. I fished it in Mpumalanga, in Natal. Hackle your wrap again with even wraps to the front. It will just take about 3 or 4 wraps. The last wrap you make out of space, and you tie that off right there in the front, and leave enough space to finish the head with a nice little thread head. And you tie that off, and that is the Kaufmann Stimulator, the way I like to tie it with Klipspringer hair. Very easy. But the quality of material is very important. There you go. Please subscribe to the channel, share it, like it, comment on it, and tie a bunch and go and fish them.